Hello and welcome. It's great to have you with us. Let's jump right into the biggest stories that have been shaping India for the week ending November 15th, 2025.
So, here's what we've got lined up. We're starting with a really surprising election result out of Bihar. Then we'll get into a new law that changes the rules for your personal data. After that, we're looking at India's big strategic search for critical minerals, and we'll wrap up by honoring the legacy of a truly great tribal hero. Ready?
All right. First up, let's head to Bihar. The results from the assembly election are in, and wow, it was a massive mandate for the ruling National Democratic Alliance, the NDA.
Just look at this number, 202. That's how many seats the NDA coalition managed to secure out of a total of 243. Now that's what you call a decisive victory. But how they did it, well, that tells a really fascinating story about Indian elections.
Okay, to really get what happened, you need to understand our first-past-the-post system. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Basically, in any given area, the candidate who gets even one more vote than anyone else wins. And this simple rule can lead to some pretty wild outcomes.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The RJG party, they actually got the single biggest chunk of the total vote, 23%, but that only translated to 25 seats. On the flip side, the NDA got 46.7% of the votes, and that gave them that huge number of 202 seats. This is the first-past-the-post system in action. See, it's not just about how many people vote for you overall, it's about where those votes are.
So, what was the NDA's secret sauce? Well, one of the key factors seems to be targeted welfare. You had schemes like the Mahila Rozgar Yojana, which gave cash directly to over 1 crore women. That seems to have been a real game changer, especially in getting women out to vote.
And then there was the other side of the coin. The opposition was just not on the same page. It looks like the India bloc really struggled with coordination, and their connection on the ground wasn't as strong as it used to be. That made it tough for them to put up a unified fight. But you know, this winning strategy brings a huge challenge with it. The new government now has to figure out how to pay for all these massive benefit programs, and that's going to put some serious financial pressure on a state like Bihar, which already has pretty limited resources.
Okay, next up is a story that affects literally every single one of us who uses a phone or a computer. The government has rolled out the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or DPDP Act, and it's set to completely change how our personal info is treated.
You know, the whole thing boils down to this one simple question. Who's really in charge of your personal data? Is it you, or is it all the companies and apps we use every single day? So the new law gives us two main characters in this story. First, there's you. You're the data principal. Think of yourself as the owner of your data. And then there are the data fiduciaries. Those are the companies, the apps, even the government agencies that collect and use your data. The big deal here is that this law creates a formal legal relationship between you and them. And man, has this been a long time coming. The whole journey really kicked off back in 2017, when the Supreme Court made that landmark ruling that privacy is a fundamental right. It took a few years, but the act finally passed in 2023. And now, companies have until November 2026 to get all their systems in line with these new rules.
But it's not all smooth sailing. The act has its critics for sure. Some people are raising concerns about the wide-ranging exemptions given to government agencies, worrying it could open the door to more state surveillance. There's also a lot of talk about whether it might weaken our Right to Information Act, and if that long deadline for companies means our data isn't really protected right away.
Okay, let's shift gears now from policy at home to strategy on the world stage. India is on a mission, a global hunt really, to lock down some of the most important resources for our future.
And what we're talking about are critical minerals. Now, these aren't just any old rocks. They are the absolute essential ingredients for pretty much our entire modern world. We're talking about lithium for the batteries in our phones and electric cars, cobalt, rare earths, stuff that's in everything from advanced medical tech to fighter jets.
So why the big rush all of a sudden? Well, think about India's biggest goals, our net zero target, becoming a global leader in electric vehicles, building our own semiconductor industry. Every single one of these huge ambitions depends on having a reliable supply of these minerals. And that brings us to some really big news. India and Canada have just sealed a new deal to work together on building long-term supply chains for these exact minerals. This is a huge step in making sure India has the raw materials it needs to power its green and high-tech future.
So why a deal with Canada? Why is this such a big deal? Well, in one word, diversification. Right now, the global supply chain for a lot of these critical minerals is dominated by China.
This partnership is a major strategic move for India to reduce its dependency and make sure we have other, more stable sources for these absolutely vital resources.
For our final story today, we're going to step back from technology and geopolitics and look to our past. Let's talk about the incredible legacy of a hero from India's freedom struggle, Birsa Munda.
You see, Birsa Munda wasn't just a freedom fighter. He was a visionary. He fought for tribal land rights, for protecting their unique culture, and he built a powerful movement to stand up against colonial oppression. And the most incredible part? He did all of this before he was even 25 years old.
And that's exactly why November 15th, the day he was born, is now celebrated as Janajatiya Gaurav Divas. It's a day for us to remember not just his amazing contribution, but the vital role that all of India's tribal heroes have played in making our nation what it is today.
And his legacy isn't just in the past, it's inspiring action right now. We see it in key government programs like PM Janman, which is helping develop the most vulnerable tribal villages, in the hundreds of new model schools being built for tribal students, and in the new museums being set up to honor tribal freedom fighters.
So, let's quickly recap. What did we learn this week? From politics, we saw that targeted welfare is an incredibly powerful tool. In tech, a whole new era of digital rights and responsibilities is starting for all of us. On the world stage, India is making smart strategic moves for its future. And from our heritage, we're reminded that the heroes of the past are still lighting our way forward.
And that leaves us with one final thought for you. When you think about it, a new government's economic playbook, a brand new law for our digital lives, a major global partnership for resources. Which one of these do you think will end up having the biggest impact on India's future? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.